Hey everybody, welcome back. Second Eric here. Got you another Acid Archive diary today. I forget what number I'm at. I'm kind of shooting this spontaneously. As a refresher, in case anyone's just sort of dropping into this video for the first time, give you a little reminder here. This is a thread started by Seeking a Thread, Dom. And it's essentially you just pick and choose a record to talk about from the Acid Archive book. This is the second edition. I have the first edition back on my shelf. This is all curated by Patrick Lemborg. And yeah, I'm really glad I picked up the second edition. It does expand a lot and kind of revise a few different titles. However, one of them I actually chose for this list for the entries is not featured in the second edition, and it's only in the first one. So don't know what that's about. That's the first time I've encountered that sort of thing. But yeah, if you guys have this book, it's a good way to sort of make an entry video to the vinyl community, you could say. Get you kind of settled in, nestled in here, and talking about some cool records. But today, I finally picked up this one. It's been held in the shop for about a week now, and I was really happy to have this kind of land in my lap once again. I mean, some of my local shops here in town, they just really spoil me with some goodies here, some original copies. This is one that I wasn't terribly seeking an original. I figured maybe it'll find my way someday in my life, but today's the day. I've had the unofficial Scorpio press of this for ever since the beginning, like 10 plus years ago. Back when I first discovered this record, back in like 2014, 2013, around there. And here it is, the original copy. Foods Forever is a Dream on Capitol label. Whew. This is a really nice copy here. Oftentimes the sleeve gets pretty beat up, so this does have the punch out. Chicago-based band, very short-lived. Almost really comes off like a studio project. Yeah, what can I say, man? This is definitely one of those Capitol rarities, of course, you know, with the top four you can think of, like The Common People, Gandalf, Euphoria, then this one here. And oftentimes, in general, I think a lot of people do praise this one to be one of the best. And correct me if I'm wrong, I think on my Capitol list, I put this at the #1 spot. Would I still put it there? Probably. I really love this record, man. This is just an interesting blend of things. So it kind of has an ebb and flow of like some swooning, sort of Baroque pop sounds. Then it also has this kind of contrast with these sort of hard-edged, hard rock kind of vibes. Weeping guitar solo sound that's very apparent all the way throughout. And it's almost kind of like this loose concept record in a way. They bring back some of the melodies from before, like on the title track, Forever is a Dream. They bring it back at the very last track on side 1, Coming Back. Interesting note about the first two cuts on here, Forever is a Dream and Naive Prayers. You don't see it on the back so much, but on the vinyl itself, the two tracks blend into each other. And I think halfway through Forever is a Dream, it kind of dips out and it comes back in with the strings. Whoever was pressing the vinyl must have thought it was the beginning of Naive Prayers, and it gives it the, I think it gives a runtime of like 7 minutes almost or something. Yeah, about 6 minutes. Get a shot of the label here while I got it out. Pretty nice copy. I'd say it's about VG, like a strong VG, but it plays really well. Got some surface marks, very light, but looks pretty good reflecting there on that light. Yeah, you can see a few blemishes, but I actually just listened to this and man, it sounds so good. It's almost like I'm hearing it for the first time again. Compared to the Scorpio reissue, which I have right here, it's pretty identical, but you can definitely tell there's a little more clarity in the photo shoot. Well, the photo transfer, I should say. I've had this copy for a long time, the repress. Just like a lot of Scorpio reissues, they do sound kind of scratchy and, you know, sound like maybe they're like digital transfers. I think it's like from 2005, so it's almost 20 years old. But this original copy, man, I was hearing a lot of different things I had never heard before, like some studio chatter. I think it was on the track on, well, not chatter, but Inside the Mirror at the very end with them laughing. Had never heard that before. And I was listening on headphones too, so it just had a lot of different nuances kind of crossing between the channels, and some of that subtle piano work and some of the sort of eerie string work going on as well. Just a lot of subtle nuances. Like I said, those strings just kind of swoon along and sound really resilient, like they're just like kind of hopeful, emotional kind of mood swings going on here. Let's dive into some of the tracks, but Naive Prayers, the second track, is probably the most hard rocking track on here. No strings attached on that one, but it's a great cut. And followed up by No, which I think is like the more brass oriented track. There are some horn sections on here, like a lot of Chicago bands like Aorta, The Troll, other bands that aren't coming to mind right now. A lot of Chicago groups seem to have some horn oriented studio effects going on. But yeah, the track No and Coming Back especially have those horn sections. And I think maybe a couple tracks on side 2. But Lady Miss Anne and Fountains of My Mind, definitely where it gets a little quieter in the mix, a little more on the softer side. But definitely some trippy elements. Fountains of My Mind especially has this kind of eerie keyboard work going on. Very drony, reverberated vocals. Very sorrowful in nature. But then side 2 opens up with a great track here, What It Seems to Be. Almost kind of sounds like sort of like an indie pop song I would hear from like the late 90s, like it was influenced by this track. Very stretched out, and like I said, all those elements kind of come together in this track in terms of its length and sort of the atmospheric mood setting. It reminds me of fall when I listen to this, you know, sort of reminiscing on the past. You have a lot of, you know, sort of scenic beauty happening visually when you listen to this. The strings just really flow in and out really nicely. And the vocals, you know, they're kind of dramatic in some spots, but I think it works pretty well. Kind of a ghostly approach to the vocals. Has this very kind of cold approach to it. And then one of my favorite tracks, Inside the Mirror, kind of acoustic driven. Also a little bit of vocal effects going on there, and good harmony work in the background. Marbled Wings gets a little more, again, more on that aesthetic rock side. And I think it also has a little bit of a horn section. Most of side 2 kind of continuously flows, so it's kind of hard to remember each individual moment, but pretty much Marbled Wings all the way to the end sort of sinks into, like I said, just kind of the ebb and flow of the hard rock tracks, but also Baroque pop moments as well. Leaves, I think that track was actually sampled by some hip-hop artist. I don't know if it was MF Doom or one of those guys, or Madlib, I think it actually was. And then the last track, Here We Go Again, has a little bit of a drum break there. But in the end, it kind of just really concludes everything in a nice sort of easy listening kind of fashion. You know, there's not really any record I can think of to compare this to. The one that came to mind just right away was the album Green on Atco, that first album, where they kind of blend the horn section with some of the more hard rocking sounds, but also very much focused on that kind of Baroque sound, whereas the hard rock is just kind of like it can just appear at any moment. There's a lot of like complex orchestration happening here, and just a lot to chew on, I think. This one definitely rewards multiple listens, and I think it grows stronger the more you listen to it. So I'll read some of the credits on the back here. It was produced and arranged by Ted Ashford, who also does the keyboards. And you also might notice there's 5 members on the back, and they forgot to leave the middle guy on the front. Maybe they cropped him out. I would like to imagine this is Ted here in the middle, though, sort of leading the pack, you could say. Recorded at Termar Recording, which I think was associated with the Chess record studio. as well as GRT. But it also says here, shows the engineers, cover photo, creds, and then the management says Ashford Associates. And I looked on Discogs, it looks like that's the only credit is for this record. So I don't know if Ted was sort of new to the game and then just kind of dipped away from it. But it looks like he's gotten some credits for doing work with like the Grateful Dead and Country Joe and the Fish, or maybe not the Fish, but Country Joe McDonald, sort of like within the 70s I found out. And it says that in the bottom here, if music be the food of love, play on, from William Shakespeare, Twelfth Night. But yeah, as far as the album's concerned, I think this is definitely one of the stronger Capitol releases, nearing the end of the decade of the 60s. And like I say, just lots to investigate here, and it might take some warming up too, but I think it's deservedly getting a lot of praise from collectors, and for good reason. A little bit of variety here, and some good chops overall. Barry Mraz, M-R-A-Z. The drummer here, I think he went on to engineer some famous bands like Styx, Bachman Turner Overdrive, some AOR kind of sounds in the 70s. But as far as these recording sessions go, I don't know much about their origins or much, if anything, that they performed anywhere. I think they just sent in like a 3-song demo and latched onto the Capitol. It'd be kind of nice to know a little more about the backstory, but maybe there is something out there that I scanned over and missed. But if anybody knows some extra info, let me know. I think it's time to dip into the Acid Archives. I got it bookmarked here. Kind of a short entry by Aaron Malinsky. I'll just read some of the info here. Forever's a Dream, 1969, green label. I think it's the 1-2 rarity. There was a CD in Australia, Austria on the Breeder label. And then 2005, yeah, the copy from Capitol and Scorpio. And then the 2007 Fallout, which is like, I think another kind of like Radioactive, unofficial. And then it says here, a mysterious, wondrous masterpiece that most collectors dismiss as the little brother to other Capitol classics like Gandalf and The Common People, when it's actually the best of the three. Intensely emotional and dramatic, these guys had a vision, and multiple listens begin to reveal its depth. String-laden ballads hold hands with fleeting blasts of power chords. Bits and pieces that seem to have no purpose blend together to create a surprisingly coherent whole. It's hard to know if they even intended this to be a concept album, but it's definitely a case of the whole being more than the sum of the pieces, good as the pieces are. An original Canadian pressing exists. Vocalist Steve White later did an obscure Christian 45 as Vision, which is news to me. So yeah, it's pretty well said. Yeah, it's got this kind of mysterious kind of aura about it that is really appealing. It's kind of alluring in some ways. And I also pulled out my Fuzz, Acid, and Flowers book. I just pulled it up here to see if there's any extra info. It just shows the personnel. It's got a short little blurb here. It says, a Chicago act whose album of soft psychedelia is heavily orchestrated in places. A couple of tracks from the album were used in a porno B film, The Babysitters. A very pleasant and melodic album which maintains a high standard throughout, with the title cut and Here We Go Again among its finer moments. They didn't release any 45s. And I don't know, it's kind of hard to say if this album really would have latched on to be a hit, like a lot of these Capitol records. If you didn't have a 45 backing you, maybe it was merely a studio get-together. But if I had to pick one to be a single, I mean, it's kind of hard to say, because the lengthier cuts I think are some of the better tracks, but some of the shorter tracks don't really have that kind of pop appeal, to hit the charts. So it's kind of hard to say for me. Man, this is a great sounding copy. Really glad to mark this off the list. And highly recommend it this Thanksgiving. Have some food. But anyways, take care. Check out Food Forever is a Dream. And I don't know what's next on the menu. I think I'm going to do a vinyl update for sure now that I have enough to talk about. I also did pick one up from the $4 bin, and I actually found some stuff at a thrift store over the weekend. Nothing crazy, but stuff to talk about at least. That'll probably come out next week. But till then, thanks for watching. We'll see you soon.